Hello, Marvina.
Hello, Renee. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Awesome.
I
Awesome.
can't complain. Well, I shouldn't complain. I'm not going to complain. I'm not. I'm doing well, honestly. I am very thankful.
Good, good, good. I thought, man, if we're both going to complain, how much time we got? It's like,
Like nobody would care anyway,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Everybody's like, hey, we got our own issues, okay? Get over yourself.
Oh my gosh. Well, here we are, the doorstep of Easter, just in a
Can you
couple of
believe
days.
it?
I
We were
know.
just talking about the holidays and the games we're gonna play at the holiday for the
At
holiday.
Christmas
It's
time. Yeah,
oh my goodness, this month I cannot believe that
yeah.
we're already halfway through the year.
I know. It is crazy. It
It
is.
is. It's scary. The older you get, you really value time a little
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it is just I can't believe we're already here, but here we
Yeah.
are.
Here we are. Here we are.
And
So
your background goes very well with
with Easter, there we
Easter.
go. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Or Resurrection Sunday, I should say.
there you go. There you go. Do you have plans for Easter with family? Okay.
Okay, okay. So this is back to like staying in my lane. Sometimes, like I said, I'm like I like it over here.
Yeah.
Um, and I say that only to say, because again, I have mentioned to you before, I realized how much I overthink things,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And make it more complicated than it has to be. And
Mhm.
so I say that to say, every time I think of like getting together with family, I absolutely love getting together with my family. But instead of me focusing on that, I think about all the things I got to do to get there, right?
Yeah. 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 Forget it.
So
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
so I
Exactly.
say that to say, as of yet, no. But I'm sure we'll have, we'll get together. I typically don't. Well, we know I go to church online most of the time anyway now,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that's one of those holidays that even when I was actually physically going into church all the most of the time, that's a holiday I avoided as
Yeah.
my children got older because that's like Christmas and Easter. I understand why more people come to church, but it's just like so many people that
Yeah.
it's overwhelming for me sometimes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the well, and Mother's Day, because we all want our kids. That's the gift we want for you to come to church.
Yeah.
That's the gift moms always want. Easter, Mother's Day, and Christmas.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
Exactly.
um,
Exactly.
I know I went off kind of on a tangent there, but
Well, I remember as kids, Easter, you get your new Easter dress, and I remember when we were
yeah.
young, they had this netting inside your Easter dress,
Okay.
and I am very sensitive to itchy stuff.
Okay.
It's just like, so I'd be pulling at my dress and couldn't wait to get home, and
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Isn't
So
that funny? Because I do. My kids, we did the Easter speeches, and I
yeah,
remember preparing as a kid, and it's one of those things. I love the nostalgia of it.
yeah,
Um, you know, but it was a lot. It's a lot for
yeah,
parents.
yeah,
But I remember, going to get that Easter outfit and it had to be the perfect one, right?
yeah,
And just that whole weekend, getting your hair done.
yeah,
And they always had the tight curls that you hated the most,
yeah.
right?
Well, yeah. I know. I think maybe the parents were just parading you around. You're
They
looking
were
miserable.
They were. Look, and then I turn around and do that to my kids. I remember one year, my youngest daughter, Arlesia, every year the kids with children church, they always get they get a poem or to recite, and so we would have to do that. And I think Arlesia was like 13, and she's like, "Mom, I still gotta do Easter speeches like I'm 13." I was like, "Oh yeah, you are. You're right." This year will be last year because we already committed. So we bring a lot of stress to the situation too, right?
Yeah.
But looking back on those childhood memories though too, we hated it then. I did, at least. But I appreciate. I do appreciate the intent behind it, and
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. One of my memories is some lady in the church, God bless her. My mom was a sewer. She sewed a lot of our clothes.
Okay.
But a lady told her, if you take a oatmeal box, the round oatmeal, cut it in half, cover it with fabric, and then a drawstring, that's a nice little purse. I remember carrying
I can see how that could work. I could see it.
Oh, but I felt like such a dummy, and the kids are all going, "What's that?" It's like, I'm gonna hit you with it.
You gotta work it. You gotta work it.
Yeah. And I was never a purse person. I'm still not. I hate purses, never liked them. And so here I am carrying this little purse with nothing in it.
Nothing in it, yeah. It's so funny. My girls, neither one of them were purse people, but they were gonna have a purse. Purse, bangs,
Yeah.
lace socks.
Yeah.
That's your right.
White patent leather shoes.
Right.
Yeah.
And then your parents are mad because you got a scuff on them. They're white patent leather. I'm a kid here. Yeah, right. Why'd you say my youngest sister, I don't know what it was about her and tights, but she always, by the end of service, it was gonna be a hole in those tights. and it was like the biggest hole, because then she would pick at the and I remember my mom, fussing it. I mean, I just all of it. Oh my goodness. PTSD, I think.
Yeah. God.
Goodness.
Yeah. Oh. Well, I hope it's fun. I hope you have a good time, whatever you guys decide to do. Yeah.
So, how about you?
Yeah, we just have dinner. My sister thinks that 47 people are going to show up, so she makes that much food.
Yeah.
And then, but it's really good. We have a nice little dinner. Then we have a little Easter egg hunt for the kids.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, so it's always fun. Yeah.
Nice.
And a couple of years, we had a Easter egg hunt after the kids. We did it for the adults, and that was kind of fun. To watch them, the baby be elbowing each other in the throat to get, so yeah, we have a good time. It's fun.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So so for our Easter episode 53 here, I thought, the title of it is Give Me a Reason. And I think a lot of times we share scripture with people and they hear it, but it's like sometimes I think they want to know how those things apply to the people who are walking in their faith.
Right.
Give me a reason. Give me an example of how this promise in the Bible has met your need, or has helped you, or has sustained you.
Right.
And so I thought, well, let's just share a couple of things. We're going to give reasons why we believe this faith is practical. It is functional. It is it makes life easier, better. And when I say easier, I've said this before, it doesn't mean you don't come up against things,
Mm-hmm.
but you get through them easier because God is walking with you.
Right.
And I was thinking about this as I was driving the other day, and one of the things I think you're aware, I've written a couple of screenplays
Yes.
and have submitted and submitted and submitted, and you just get either we're not going to look at it, or no thank you, or it doesn't meet our needs, whatever it happens to be. And I was a little discouraged in this last one, got back the same thing, not interested. And I get very discouraged.
Mm-hmm.
But I had read a scripture that says uh, thanksgiving and thankfulness is something that touches God's heart. It makes
Mm-hmm.
his heart happy. So after I got this news, my first thought was, this is never going to go anywhere. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to change that focus. And I'm going to say, God, thank you for helping me write such a great little
Mm-hmm.
story. Maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
not their cup of tea,
Right.
but I know it's a good story. So I
Mm-hmm.
kind of changed my focus a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, so I just wanted to, I don't even know how that came up now that I'm thinking. You and I were just talking a second ago. You have so many thoughts running around in your head. I have cartoon music going in my head. So I just kind of I go here and there. And uh, so however I was going to tie that in, it was very impactful, just so you know.
It'll come back. You'll
Yeah,
circle
it'll
back.
come back. Uh, but yeah. So God, I guess what I was maybe thinking about is that um, despite sometimes how things are going,
Mm-hmm.
um, we can trust that God is working on our behalf, and
Yes.
and I can see that in a lot of. I know I've shared this story before as far as with my financing of my house. I got a house kind of late in life.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, when I applied, the interest rates were very high. And so it became difficult because at that time, the state had gone into, I think it was 3 furlough days a month. So we
Uh-huh.
lost like 15% of our pay.
Yes.
And so I'm going, Lord, I've got my HOAs, I've got the house payment, and this is just not, this is hard. And I'm thinking, do I
Yes.
have to bring somebody in, a roommate, and I didn't want to do that. So I was just kind of really getting frustrated by it. And this flyer in the mail kept coming through from this company. I'd look at it, throw it away. Kept coming through, throw it away. So finally, one day I looked at it and I thought, well, why don't I just reach out to these people?
Mm-hmm.
So I emailed them and I was able to reduce my interest rate
Mm-hmm.
from like 6.5 to like 4 with them. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, here all along, God was showing me or giving me, here, Renee, this is the direction
Mm-hmm.
you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so he took a situation that was very difficult, made a way for me
Yes.
so that I could live comfortably during that time of a loss of income.
Yes.
So I always think of that when I think about how faithful God has been.
Right.
And like I say, it doesn't matter if you're going to have difficult times,
Mm-hmm.
but what you have to get in your heart is that even in those difficult times,
Mm-hmm.
he is still working on my behalf.
That's right.
And so that was one thing that's always been in my heart. It's like
Okay.
whenever I come up against something, it's like, but God made a way.
Right.
I had to pay a little more attention than I was paying at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
that didn't discount his faithfulness. He was
Right.
still faithful to me and met my need.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he does do that. Um okay. I'm gonna start out one place, but I'm hoping to end up in another place, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But one of the things you said is sometimes we choose, right? You have to make a choice how you're gonna go through things.
Hmm.
And I remember my wonderful brother, Omar. I always talk about him with you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And as much as he's a thorn in my side some days, he's truly a rose to some days. And I remember, now we all know, I can't wait till I retire, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to be, this is an aside, I'm going to be starting the countdown. I got like 3 years, but we're going to still start the countdown. But, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's better than 9 years. But anyway, but I remember, you know, like, I mean, I would just dread like going to work, and not because of where I worked. I love where I work. I've been beyond blessed. God has put some amazing people in my pathway. I just don't like to leave my house a lot.
Yeah.
Gotta get up and get dressed. It's just a whole production to me. Yeah. Anyway, my brother was like, you choose, you're like dreading every day to go to work. You got to make a choice. You choose how your attitude is going to be going through this. You got to go. So you make the choice. And that's, you know, and so even now, I have to remind myself, Marvin, you choose how you're going to go through this.
Yeah.
And so that also brings me to, you know, thinking about giving me a reason. I know as my children were growing, you know, they were younger. Armand and I were in the beginning of our career. And I think I've shared this before, and how God just came in. My mother-in-law was an instrumental person of faith in my life as I came back to Christ and walking as an adult. She was a great example. And she was also always a great support. And so I remember one year, Armand and I, it was just a tough year, and Christmas rolled around, and I'm thinking, you know, you have the pressures that we put on ourselves, meeting certain expectations and, you know, providing this for the kids and all of this. And so we were renting this home, and somehow there was a leak in the ceiling. And so part of the ceiling had caved in. It was this huge hole. I was pregnant with my youngest daughter, Arlesia. And I'm like, God, if it ain't one thing, it's another. Like, we already ain't got no money. Okay. Like, yeah. That was got a hole in the ceiling. And it just seemed like it just kept piling on. And I had our church had started, and we had gone out to do a feeding, and we would go out, and we would actually, you know, go out and set up, and you know, would meet with people, and so, and I just remember God showing me, and, you know, I had the car I had at the time. I mean, you know, it got me from A to B, but it wasn't like the cutest. I think I had like 3 hubcaps out of 4. I don't know. I might have 1 out of 4. I can't remember. But I remember going to be, okay, so let me back up. My mother-in-law. So that particular year, my mother-in-law said, hey, why don't you have the kids come here? She lived in Kentucky at the time. She said, why don't you have the kids come here for Christmas, and they can spend, you know, Christmas with us. And so she sent for them to come there. My dad lived in Ohio at the time. And so then he made a trip to visit with them as well. That was one of the most memorable Christmases for my kids. Right. And I'm thinking, I think that year, Armand and I'm like, hey, they're going to have to get a joint gift this year. And I think it was like Nintendo or something. And, but I felt bad as a parent, like this is all we could give them. And so anyway, my mother-in-law ended up sending for them. They went there, they spent Christmas with my mother-in-law. And then I had went out to do feeding with my church. I think it was Christmas Eve or something. And God just showed me how thankful I needed to be in the midst of trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
I remember there was a young mother, and she had two girls, two daughters, and the shelters were full at that time of the year. And she was saying that, she was so thankful that we were out there with hot chili and cider and some other things, because it was so cold, and they had been sleeping under like the Rayleigh's trucks. It was over there off of C Street. And so the river is there. And so there's a lot of homeless people. And so it just I said, God, even in the midst of what I don't have, I still have more than a lot of other people.
Yeah.
And it just really humbled me. And sometimes we get so caught up in, we miss the reason.
Yeah.
Right? God makes a way for us all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just have to be present enough to see it. I also think, and God gives us a peace as we're going through things, right?
Right.
He may not, like you said, things are going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not going to have a perfect life. You're not going to get everything you want, contrary to what the world has us to believe. Sometimes it's God's will, not ours. Right. But that is something, and that was probably my youngest daughter is 30. She just turned 30. So that was over 30 years ago. And it still touches me as if it were yesterday, because I know how desperate I was, and God met my needs. And I just remember getting back in my car, and all the complaining I had done before, but not having any money, what are we going to do about the ceiling? And we got to get that fixed. And God was like, but you can get in your car. You might only have one hubcap, but you got heat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I could turn my heater on. Like, come on, girl. You go home. Yeah, you might have a hole in the ceiling, but you still have heat. Worst case scenario, you can get blankets. You have a bed. You have a dry. It's just so much. And so, when I get overwhelmed, a lot of times I have to go back to the reason, and I have to think about how God has, and that's one amongst many situations where God has showed up. And I also think that that's what we have to do when, like, a lot of times we get so caught up in defending our faith, which is what we're supposed to do. But sometimes it's the way we do it. And sometimes, like you said, just sharing with others what God has done for you and how God has brought you out of certain situations, that will give somebody else the encouragement to know that they can move forward.
Right.
Because when we're going through things, we always feel that it's unique to us. But it's not, and I think that's why it's important that we also be transparent about our walk our walk of faith too, because it ain't all roses and bubblegum. That's
I love that. That's a good saying. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's he has been so faithful. And even in that example you shared with your mother-in-law, was it mother-in-law?
Yes.
Kids, right?
My mother-in-law, yes.
What a relief that was for parents who wanted to give the best but couldn't at the time, but provided an opportunity for your kids to have probably one of the best Christmases they remember, right?
One of the best Christmas memories with their grandmother, you know what I'm saying? And with her not being here, they go back to those photos, and we're like, both their grandmother and their grandfather are both gone now, but they remember that, you know what I'm saying? Hanging at this, because my father-in-law at the time, he worked at a school, and so he would take the kids with them to, help in the gymnasium and do different things. And they talk about that all the time, going to see a bull that was, on his land. It's just, I was so relieved
Yeah.
And I was just so thankful. It brings me almost to tears now when I think about it, because
Yeah.
God just made a way out of no way, and I'm
Yeah.
just really grateful for that. Yeah.
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 Yeah. He was faithful in your desperation,
Yes.
you know. And that's yeah,
Yeah.
and I think the same thing when I about the house, the financial piece. He was
Yes.
faithful in my desperation.
Right.
And so when we talk about, if somebody's saying, "Well, give me a reason
Hmm.
to believe." Well, we're
Right.
saying God was faithful to us in our desperation,
Yes.
you
That's
know.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
I do think that like you said, when people ask us, share your testimony.
Yeah. Yeah.
That helps people to get to that next level of where they need to get, that little push, that little glimpse of encouragement. I had mentioned to you before we started recording how um I'm just so thankful for our conversations,
Hmm.
because it encourages me. And a lot of times, and like I said, a lot of times I'm in my head about a lot of
Hmm.
things.
Hmm.
And when you're able to connect with someone and you share with me how God has opened doors for you in certain areas, or just sharing how you're handling things or going through things,
Right.
it helps to give me encouragement for what I'm going through or what I'm dealing with. And sometimes you don't even realize you're dealing with things, because God does give you a peace as you go through it a lot of
Right.
times.
Right.
And then sometimes, because you just get so used to moving forward, you're like, oh yeah, I am going through some stuff,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then, but it helps me to know how I need to move next, so um it's really a blessing to be able to fellowship with others and share your testimony,
Right.
and share what God has done for you,
Yeah.
what He's doing for you, what He's done for others in your life, some prayers that you prayed about that God has answered. And
Right.
thinking back on those things helps to give us encouragement to keep going too.
Right.
Give me a reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. So, so God can meet you where you're at, wherever you're
mhm.
at.
Yes.
Another thing I was thinking about is God, if you have relational needs,
Hmm.
God can minister in those situations too. So,
Hmm.
I'm going to give somebody a reason to believe, to
Right.
put their hope in God.
Thank
Is my
God.
sister, my older
Hmm.
sister. We came, I know I've shared this before, we came from a very volatile family, and
Hmm.
my older sister took a lot of the abuse.
Okay.
And so she developed a very hard exterior. She could be
Hmm.
a wonderful person. She had a great heart,
Hmm.
but she had this part of her that was going to protect herself no matter what.
Hmm.
So growing up, that kind of made her and I a little bit at odds,
Okay.
a little distant. And
Okay.
so, not that we ever really, I mean, fought or anything like there's
Hmm.
some families, but there just was not a connection.
Okay.
And so, we lost her almost 6 years ago now.
Okay.
And it was very fast, and it was very unexpected.
Okay.
But about a year before that,
Hmm.
the Lord opened the door for me. We were in a conversation one time,
Hmm.
and it was not it was an okay conversation. It wasn't like hostile or anything. I hung up, and the Lord spoke to me and said, "Call her back and tell her you love her."
Mm.
So I picked up the phone. I said, "Hey," I said, "I just wanted to let you know that I love you."
Mm.
And still brings me to tears to this day. And she was teary on the other. She says, "I love you too." And I
Mm.
thought God was preparing at that moment
Hmm.
for us to see her end together, because
Yeah.
we were with her prior
Okay.
to her death. We
Okay.
were able to pray with her. We were
Okay.
able, and she was on life support at the time, so she was not, alert or anything. But there were a couple of times when we were sharing something that you would see her hand move or she would squeeze a finger.
Okay.
And I thought, how faithful is God? If you have a relational difficulty, if
Mm-hmm.
you have something you need healed,
Yes.
I'm giving you a reason to believe that God can do that
Yes.
because never would I have thought uh, that it would have been, we wouldn't have been as connected at the end as we were,
Yes. Okay.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
So when we say on our podcast, God can do anything. He can change any circumstance. Uh, I'm I'm telling you that in my life, God changed that circumstance. Now I
Yes.
had a little work to do.
Yes.
It was had I been bitter or angry toward her, I probably would have never made that call back to say, I love you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but God had dealt with my heart to the point where I could say that, and that just broke open any
Mm-hmm.
barriers that might have been there at the end of her life.
Right.
So, I just when God says He can heal
Mm-hmm.
hearts, He can heal hearts.
Yes, he
You
can.
know.
And he will. And like you, I've had many situations like that
Hmm.
where I've had to give the relationship up to God and ask God and pray about it. And God works it out.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
really does.
yeah.
And that is wonderful because not only did you give your sister a chance to feel the love from you, but you allowed yourself to also receive that love from your sister
Hmm.
and to understand her pain and her hurt and what, you know what I'm saying, and all of that.
Right.
And like you said, you didn't know what God was doing. And I do believe that a lot of times when we don't follow what God, well, we know when we don't follow what God has us to do,
Hmm.
there's going to be consequences because of that, right? That we have
Hmm.
to deal with. Of course, God is going to still be with us as we go through it,
Hmm.
but there's still going to be consequences. And so, um, it's very, I think it's very important to remember to remember the reason of why we're doing what we're doing,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Right.
Who we're serving. Everything is based on our faith in God.
Hmm.
Everything else builds from there. And so,
Right.
but sometimes we do have to remember the reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if somebody's struggling with personal issues, negative thoughts about themselves or insecurities or that kind of thing where it holds you back from enjoying who you are as a person, who God created you to be. I
Mm-hmm.
can I can attest to that as well. Having gone
Mm-hmm.
through counseling with a Christian counselor, very, very good at what she did. But I can tell you that I came from a place of being uh, very damaged
Mm-hmm.
by our youth experiences
Yes.
and have come to the place where it's like, it used to be I even hated the way I sounded. I would be talking to somebody at work
Mm-hmm.
and walk away, and my first thought was, "You sounded so stupid."
Oh,
That was we
really?
were we grew up with that message given to
Okay.
us. You're stupid.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so I carried that so long, you know. And so every situation you sounded, and I would just beat myself up.
Okay.
And uh, God was faithful in ministering to that part of me that was so
Yeah.
broken
Mm-hmm.
and healing that. So
Mm-hmm.
if people are going through things where they're feeling like there's really no hope, I'm going to be broken all my life. I'm a living testament to say No, you don't have to
That's
be
right.
broken. God is willing to heal
Yeah.
whatever the wound is, whatever
Right.
the hurt,
That's
and
right.
bring you to a point where you can walk the path that he has intended for you. You don't
Right.
have to be on the path
Mhm.
that your upbringing put you on.
That's correct.
God can change you. Uh,
Hmm.
Years ago, do I think I would even be doing something like this? No, because I still get off going, well, I probably shouldn't have, like you say, probably shouldn't have gone off on that. But I wouldn't have had the confidence. And that's what
Right.
I'm saying. God can restore, or God
Right.
can minister to that hurt to the
Right.
point where you can become the person that he wants you to be instead of the person that someone defined you to be years ago.
Right. Right. Uh, you're so right, Renee. I agree 1,000%. And I think that we all have grown up with we're imperfect people. We
Hmm.
say that all the time. So we're not going to have a perfect life. We're not, none of us have had a perfect upbringing. And so I think it's important too that we remember, just like we've been hurt and we've had to deal with hurt and we've had to overcome hurt in our lives, in some things in our childhood, in our family background, other people deal with that same thing. And even when we come up against, right,
Hmm.
them, going back to the relationship issue. Typically, we're both dealing with some stuff from way back here,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so, but God is faithful and he brings us through. And I think part of the reason he brings us through is to help others along the way too.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because there's someone else. Just think about like how while you were going through certain things,
Hmm.
um, and even learning certain things about your family background, has someone else verbalized that that's not normal or you're
Hmm.
okay, it's not you? If they had poured into you, just think how much easier it would have been for you
Hmm.
to kind of navigate through that, right? Because
Right.
part of it is you feel like no one understands this but me,
Right.
you know.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think that giving a reason helps others through that
Hmm.
walk as well.
Right.
It
Right.
helps to deliver them from some things.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. So, God's been faithful in every area of my life.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and even as far as protection, you if you're fearful, um, you can rely on God for the protection that you need.
Right.
Uh, so I know I've shared this before too, but these are the stories that kind of came back to my mind when I thought, if I want to attest to God's faithfulness or to God's protection or to God's provision, these were the things that came to mind. But I remember telling you a story probably not too long ago where I was driving my grandparents to Fall River Mills and there was an overpass with a truck that had tires just piled up on it, on the
Okay.
back, right? And as we're driving on the freeway, I see one of these tires fall off the truck
Mm-hmm.
and it bounces onto the overpass and then bounces over the railing onto
Mm-hmm.
the freeway. And it is just bouncing and it is coming right toward me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had nowhere to go on the side and there was no shoulder on the other side. And I'm calculating it and it should have hit my windshield,
Mm-hmm.
that tire, just by the way it was bouncing. But the
Mm-hmm.
hand of God, I believe, it hit the very front of my car, bounced off and hit the roof of my car, and then
Mm.
bounced off. If it had come through my windshield, I think we probably would have of course, wrecked and may have been killed. I'm not sure.
Right.
But it
Yeah.
was almost you saw the hand of God. It didn't make sense the way it, and then all of a sudden, boom, and it was just so
Yeah.
you think about that, and it's like, okay, uh, God protects, and a lot of times we live in fear, and what God wants us to know is that I'm there for you.
That's right.
My
That's
hand is
right.
in this. Let me help you.
Right.
And so I see God, I just see God in all my life. I think as I've gotten older,
Yeah.
it's been
Mhm.
easier.
Yes.
And again, you have to change your focus from seeing the negative to being willing to be thankful to Him for those things that
Right.
you do
That's
have.
right.
But yeah, I just, God is faithful,
He
you
is
know.
faithful.
If you can't believe the scripture that is being, then talk to somebody who's been in the faith and say,
Hmm.
give me some reasons why I should believe. What are
Hmm.
some things that God's done for you? You
Hmm.
know?
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I think it's fitting as we think about, as we're coming close to discussing and acknowledging the resurrection of Christ.
Hmm.
And just like in his resurrection, death did not have a hold on him,
Right.
and nor does it have a hold on us
Right.
because of the evidence of God, of Christ being resurrected on the third day. It's a metaphor to God is able to resurrect whatever you think is dead in your life.
Hmm. Hmm.
All you have to do is keep your eyes on Christ,
Hmm.
stay in your lane,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
and he will
Yeah.
give you a reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Exactly.
it just and it's just and it's amazing when you stop. And I would say if you're struggling with some things and if you're struggling in seeing some things or being able to see your way through some things, think back to where God has brought you from.
Yes. Yeah.
No one can ever take your experiences from you. That's the thing. You know what I'm saying? You know what that experience was. Think back to where you are at a desperate time in your life and
Hmm.
how God made a way out of no way.
Hmm.
And we have to remember those things so that we don't forget how to move forward because every time
Yeah.
when things come up we're human, we are going to get discouraged, but
Yeah.
I would say go back to it was many times I've just thought about praying for things um for the kids, and sometimes as parents you get discouraged like, okay God, what are they doing, are they losing their mind? But then I
Yeah. Yeah.
have to think back to what God brought us through. Like, God, I didn't even think that I remember being pregnant with this child and not even knowing how to move forward. You
Yeah.
know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So you got to remember where God brought you from so you can keep moving forward. And we have a choice. We have
Yeah.
a choice of how we're going to go through. We may not be able to change the circumstances necessarily in our own strength,
Hmm.
but that's where our faith comes in. That's where prayer comes in. And that is how we change the trajectory of things. And we don't give in to the fear because a lot of it is just fear. And Satan is going to keep ahead, and he's going to keep in front of us what we think we can't accomplish or what's not going to happen. And we're worrying for nothing. God is
Yeah.
like, who told you that?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Why'd you listen to
Told you.
him? Yeah. Uh,
Yes.
yeah.
So yeah, so I'm thankful we had this conversation today,
Yeah.
and it's helped me um to just put some things in perspective and remembering those things and just being so grateful where God has brought me
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
what he's brought me through.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about the things that he's going to continue to do with my family, with me, you
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
with my retirement in 3 years.
Yeah, yeah.
But the Lord says the same.
Oh gosh.
Ah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
he's been very good. He's been very good.
he
And I think
has
yeah,
been. Oh, he has.
if we can stand back and
Yeah,
just look at it and just look at it through lenses other than negative, you
right.
know. And that's I think going into this Easter season, like you say, it's about resurrection. It's about hope, right?
It's
And so I
about
think if people are dealing with things
yes,
and you just can't seem to break out of something or just ask God, show me your faithfulness. He is
yes,
never offended by that.
never. And not one time has he not. Anytime that I've asked,
Yeah,
not one time has he failed me. It
right.
is, he has been tried and true in my
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
You know?
And I can look back on situations and it may not have come about the way I thought,
Mm-hmm.
but the outcome is
Yep.
always faithfulness.
Always. Oh,
Kindness, faithfulness, love, support. There's, like I say, the road getting there, I think you made that point. The road getting there might be different than we think it should be, but
yes.
you have to go, okay, but at the end of it all, he never
Yeah.
left my side.
That's
He
right.
never disappointed me. He never let me down.
That's right. That's
And
right.
so, yeah,
That's
so
right.
don't be afraid in this season. Just say,
Yes.
God, show me your faithfulness.
Yes.
And then going back to last episode, then just stay in your lane and let him do it.
Stay in your lane and let him
Let
do
him
it.
do it.
Block out all the noise.
Yes,
The
yes.
noise, the purpose of the noise is to keep you distracted.
Yeah, yeah.
Block it out.
Yep, yep,
Keep your focus.
yep. So
Yeah.
there we go. We've given you a reason. He's been faithful to us.
Yes.
He's been I can't imagine walking this life without him.
Me either,
Yeah,
Renee.
yeah,
I say that all the time. I
yeah,
cannot imagine. I stress myself out enough walking with him, okay?
yeah.
Not walking with him, it would be devastating for everybody involved.
Yeah. He's sitting there thinking, oh, there she goes again.
Here she goes again. Yep, yep. You're so
Oh
right.
gosh.
Yeah, I'm so thankful, and I thank God for the resurrection. I
Mhm.
thank Him for I just thank Him for the resurrection.
Yeah.
Yeah, very blessed.
Because that's what has given us the hope that we have. Yeah,
Right. That's
absolutely.
right. That's
Absolutely.
right.
So, all right. Well, anything else on your end?
No.
Nope. All right.
Oh,
Okay.
I like your little bling. I checked it out. I was looking. I was like, oh, I see
I dressed up for Easter. Yeah.
Renee.
But did you notice, like halfway through the episode, my lights went out, right? So I got very, did you
Oh,
notice it?
I didn't.
Oh, the lights went out. It was like, what happened? I tried
Oh,
not to be really obvious about it. But so yeah, there probably would have been a little bit more
okay, yeah,
blingy.
Renee.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, well, until next time.
Until next time, you have a great Easter and
Thank you. You too, Renee.
Yeah.
Enjoy your family time, and
Okay.
we'll be connecting soon.
Sounds good. All
All
right.
right.
Okay. Bye.